Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we pull out the highest leverage insights from some pretty complex source material to get you well-informed fast. Today, we are tackling a business promise that, well, it sounds a little too good to be true, but it's becoming more and more real. We're talking about hitting $1 million or more in annual revenue without hiring a single traditional employee. The sources we dove into, they call it the blueprint for the ultra-lean firm, and they promise, and I'm quoting here, make great money, work the way you like, have the life you want.
And this isn't just a trend or a feeling, it's a real measurable shift in the economy. We're talking about what the U.S. Census Bureau calls non-employer firms.
Hmm.
So businesses where the only staff is the owner, and they're pulling in seven figures. By 2015, there were 35,584 of these firms hitting that $1 to $2.5 million revenue mark.
And the growth rate on that is just staggering.
Exactly. That number, it was up 33% in just 4 years from 2011. And to really put a fine point on it, there were 355 of these one-person businesses bringing in $5 million or more. So this is not a side hustle. This is serious economic power from a single person who's leveraging technology and systems.
So our mission today for you is to really pull those systems apart. We're going to give you a detailed look at the tech, the success factors, and the mindset shifts you need to build or scale your own ultra-lean business. Let's start with the revolution itself. I mean, why is this happening now? Why not 20 years ago?
The sources are pretty much unanimous on this.
Yeah.
It all comes down to technological democratization. The barrier to entry, the cost and the complexity of starting a scalable business is just evaporating. You don't need huge capital for infrastructure anymore.
Right, absolutely. Just think about the tools. You can set up an LLC online in, what, minutes?
But under an hour, easily.
And then you have an instant web presence with platforms like WordPress or Shopify for almost no money. Cloud storage means no server farms. But maybe the biggest piece is distribution. The ability to launch a super targeted ad on Facebook or Google. It means a tiny company can compete for eyeballs with a massive corporation.
And that tech, it translates directly into personal freedom. When you ask independent workers what drives them, 75% say it's the freedom to be their own boss. But here's the thing, this freedom doesn't have to come at a cost. The data shows 43% of full-time independents make more money than they did in their old jobs.
Right. That just busts the myth that you have to sacrifice income to be independent. I mean, 3.2 million independent workers earned over $100,000 in 2017. The potential is clearly there. The case of Laszlo Nadler, the guy who created tools for wisdom planners, is just a perfect example of this whole shift.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So he was this highly paid project manager at a bank, always putting out fires. When his planner business took off, he walked away. He realized he wasn't trading time units, but attention units.
And that distinction is so fascinating. What he means is, most jobs pay for your time. You show up for 8 hours. Nadler realized that scaling a business isn't about how many hours you clock. It's about where you apply your most valuable resource, which is your attention.
So if you're spending your precious attention on, say, low-level customer service emails or printing shipping labels by hand.
You're acting like an employee in your own business, not the CEO.
Exactly.
The shift is all about strategically putting your focused attention on the high-leverage stuff, product design, big partnerships, and automating literally everything else. Nadler went from managing global crises to actually prioritizing his family, exercise, and the big picture growth of his own thing.
And that kind of intentionality, it leads right into the core success factors. The first one is something the sources call geekdom. You have to be deeply, almost obsessively invested in your topic. Nadler had this near-obsessive fascination with daily planning tools. That's what gave him the stamina to push through.
But here's the crucial part of that. Passion alone is just a hobby, right? You have to find where your geekdom meets real, quantifiable market demand. You can't build a seven-figure business around something only 10 people care about. So the question isn't just, what do I love? It's, what do I love that a market is willing to pay a premium for?
Okay, let's get into operations, because this is the real make or break part of going solo and scaling big. If you want seven figures, you have to ditch the DIY mentality. You just can't do it all yourself.
That is the single biggest hurdle for people to get over. The only way one person generates that kind of revenue is by scaling their capacity beyond themselves. And that means contractors, automation, and outsourcing. Like Nadler said, you need a team to accomplish your dream. If your dream does not have a team, it is not big enough.
But that team is all external. It's managed by systems, not people in an office down the hall. And I think a big fear for entrepreneurs is losing quality control when they outsource something important like design or manufacturing. So how do you manage that?
You focus on systems, not on trying to learn new skills. So Nadler didn't try to become a graphic designer, he hired a freelance expert. More importantly, he outsourced his entire supply chain to a super reliable online printing company. This partner handled everything: printing, packing, delivery. That's the key. Finding a partner that offers, quote, almost unlimited scaling. When you outsource the supply chain, you're not the bottleneck anymore.
And that just flows right into simplifying how you sell. If you've outsourced making the product, you need to outsource the headache of distributing it too. So these successful solo firms, they often pick one main outlet, like a big internet marketplace that has fulfillment services built in.
Yeah, but there's a trade-off there we should mention. Platforms like Amazon FBA or even Shopify's network, they give you incredible logistical ease, but relying only on them, well, that creates a dependency risk. But for a solo entrepreneur starting out, the time you save on packing and shipping, it just frees up so many of those precious attention units for growth.
Absolutely. And the final success factor is really about your customers. You can't afford a massive ad budget, so your success is all about building a passionate community that does the marketing for you.
And this is where that geekdom really pays off again. Because Nadler was obsessed with planners. He knew his ideal customer inside and out. He used tools like Facebook Audience Insights and figured out his core demographic was middle-aged women looking for organization, and he tailored everything to them. He really hammers home that customer service isn't an afterthought, it becomes your #1 driver for new sales. One glowing review can drive hundreds of sales.
And that whole framework brings us to the 6 main categories where this model just shines. We've got e-commerce, manufacturing, informational content, professional and creative services, personal services, and finally, real estate. I think we need to touch on each of these to really give you the full picture.
Okay, starting with e-commerce, the name of the game is aggressive niching down. You just can't go head-to-head with the big box giants selling everything. Success comes from becoming a curator of a certain type of highly specialized product.
The Soxy.com example is perfect for this.
Yeah.
These two brothers, Boris and Albert Weissman, they started out selling a whole men's wardrobe online. But their sales data was just screaming one thing: funky pattern socks. So they made this radical pivot, focused the whole business just on socks, and they hit 7 figures in the first year after that switch. They let the data lead.
Right. And then you've got manufacturing. People often overlook this for a solo model, but the strategy is small batches, super specialized production where you use contract manufacturers, you design it, you build a prototype, and then you outsource the fabrication. You become the quality control auditor, not the factory worker.
A great non-physical product example is informational content. This is all about leveraging expertise and automating the delivery. Take Saul Orwell from Examine.com. He needed unbiased supplement research. Instead of writing it all himself, he hired PhDs and nutrition researchers as contractors. They wrote these premium ebooks and newsletters. So the business was selling high-value, expert knowledge, all digitally, with huge margins.
And that strategy sort of bleeds into professional services too, like high-end consulting. A solo consultant scales by focusing on an extremely specific, high-value niche, something like enterprise blockchain for boutique law firms. Then they use contractors to deliver the service and do the follow-up.
Exactly. So you're the solo consultant charging, say, $500 an hour, but you hire 2 contractors at $100 an hour to build the spreadsheets and handle the client intake. Your attention unit is spent on landing the big contract and setting the strategy.
Then you have personal services. Here, scale comes from either digital delivery, so online courses, high-end coaching, or by creating really tight local systems. A personal trainer who hits 7 figures isn't seeing 100 clients a week. They're automating all their scheduling, their billing, their content, and they're using outsourced marketing so they can focus only on the high-value client time.
And lastly, the investment route, real estate. There's this guy, Corey Binsfield, who built a portfolio of 116 apartments in Duluth, Minnesota, pulling in over $1 million a year in rent. And he started when he was only making $50,000 a year. His key was systemization. He had this 1% rule. Rent had to be at least 1% of the purchase price monthly, and crucially, he outsourced all the property management. He's a portfolio manager, not the guy fixing toilets.
So these examples show the model works everywhere, but they all needed a smart way to get off the ground without a ton of debt.
Right. Let's talk about launch funding, because not everyone has savings from a private equity job. The side hustle is a classic. Kelly Lester of Easy Lunchboxes, she funded her business using her actor husband's steady paychecks. She just ran it part-time until it took off.
Then you have the aggressive saver. Paul Hedrick of Takova's Cowboy Boots, he saved 20 to 30% of his after-tax income to pour a 6-figure sum into his own startup. He basically lived lean to buy his freedom.
And the third way is using the market to fund you. Catherine Krug, founder of Better Back Posture Support, she used Kickstarter. She didn't just raise money, she raised $1.2 million in pre-orders. So she got the cash for manufacturing and proved there was massive demand before she even built the thing.
And once you're launched, you have to keep iterating. You have to be flexible. The founders of Birch Bender's pancake mixes, they went through 99 different versions of their paleo mix recipe. And then when sales were slow, they actually changed the package size, made it smaller to hit a more affordable price point. And that's when sales exploded. The product is never really done.
And that optimization has to apply to your marketing too.
Yeah.
Kelly Lester's approach to influencers was just brilliant. She connected with mommy bloggers like a fellow mom, not like some corporate suit. And that got her all this organic content on Pinterest and Instagram that just multiplied her reach way more than a pricey ad could have.
And finally, the ultimate lever for efficiency is just automation. Alan Walton of Spy Guy used a system called Shipping Easy. Now, this isn't just buying postage. This tool connects directly to Amazon or Shopify, pulls the order data, and just prints a prepaid branded shipping label. It completely eliminates manual data entry, tracking numbers, waiting in line at the post office. It's basically a full-time logistics assistant that's a piece of software.
Okay, so if you're running all these systems, you're going to risk burnout. Which brings us back to Laszlo and Adler's time management system. Eliminate, automate, delegate, procrastinate, EADP.
EADP is basically the mental operating system for a solo CEO. You eliminate tasks that don't matter. You automate the repetitive stuff like shipping. You delegate the things that need a human but aren't your highest value like bookkeeping. And you procrastinate. You intentionally put off the low priority stuff so you're forced to focus on what actually moves the needle. It's all about protecting those attention units.
So that really brings us to the synthesis of this whole deep dive. For you, the listener, it's about finding that sweet spot, that nexus of your passion and expertise with real, profitable market demand. Then you leverage every tool, every contractor you can find. You ditch the DIY to expand your capacity way beyond what one person can physically do. That is the formula.
But the goal here, and this is important, isn't just the revenue number. It's about gaining independence, about realizing a personal vision. The beauty of this model is the choice it gives you. You can keep it ultra lean forever and have maximum lifestyle freedom. Or you can do what the Soxy.com guys did. They eventually hired staff because the volume just got so big that bringing capacity in-house was the next logical step for them.
It gives you the ultimate control over your own destiny and your own definition of success.
It does. But I want to leave you with one final, and I think critical, thought from the sources. A lot of entrepreneurs, they get really good at cutting costs, and then they fall into this trap of selling their stuff too cheaply. They think, my overhead is low, so my price can be low. But they forget to calculate the real costs of being independent. The huge self-employment taxes, paying for your own health insurance, funding your own retirement. They're basically undervaluing their time and the systems they've built. So the question you need to answer today isn't about your next idea, it's about your financial architecture. It's this: what knowledge gap do you need to close to make sure you are pricing your value proposition high enough to actually afford the security and the independence that you're seeking in the first place?